Hey everybody, my name's Todd and you are watching Digging Life. If you're new to the channel, on the last episode I started clearing off what might be the future house site or a picnic area, campsite. Who knows what the property owner is going to do with it. But I had to use the excavator as you saw over here because yesterday I got the skid steer stuck. I used the excavator to scrape all of the grubbings up and put it in a pile right there. There's a little bit of brush left. Now I'm going to use the skid steer to haul all that stuff down to the bottom. Now we're going to try to get the rest of these grubbings hauled down the hill. I don't mind messing with the grubbings because the hole that I'm going to dig to have a place to put them is going to provide me with a whole lot of great clay to use elsewhere on the project. I'm running at about 3/4 throttle, and I should be able to move down this hill pretty quickly without sliding around. Right now that mud is more of like a very moist Play-Doh. Right here in this little turn, there's actually a sunk in spot in the middle from where I was kind of going back and forth when it was really wet, and that channel is helping hold me straight. If you've ever rode four-wheelers or dirt bikes, you get the idea. Now when I go to make a turn, I'll mash the pedal down and give it a little bit more fuel. Running that 3/4 throttle also slows down the functions of the hydraulics. So when you're opening and closing the clamshells on like the Grapple or moving anything, it slows things down a bit. I'll get the rest of this stuff moved and we'll go on from there. I'm really happy how this is turning out. I've gotten the largest amount of grubbings and all the brush and stumps moved down to the bottom. Now it's time to go over this. I could throw the smooth bucket on, but I'd rather just use the Grapple, push everything into one last little pile, and we'll be able to call this done. I'll do an in cab shot so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing with the Grapple and how I'm doing it. We are completely done with the excavator, therefore I'm going to go ahead and pull it down to the bottom. It's a lot heavier and less stable, even though this ground's still a little bit slippery. It's worse to slide, and I don't want to do all my dress up work with the skid steer and then come right over top of that nice finished surface and mess it up. So we'll get this down here at the bottom first. Now you can do this forwards or back. If you're back dragging, you won't leave as much tracks from the machine, but I'm not too concerned about that up here. Let's see if this over here is dry enough for me to not get stuck. What I'm gonna do is go down in here and go at an angle where it's as little steepness as possible. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my Grapple all the way down and I'm gonna initiate the float. And in this machine you press this forward and then pull that trigger, and then I'll just tilt forward just a little bit to give it some pressure. Now if that boom starts to rise up, I'll tilt it back a little bit because that's pushing too much pressure down on the front. And I'm just kind of feathering, tilting it. And that's something you guys just have to play with until you learn it. I'm gonna back straight up over the same path I just took so you can see the effect that it gave it. So it doesn't get slippery on me. So just off to the right you can see where I just went. Same thing. Sliding just a little bit, but that's okay. Slow it down just a little bit. Now I'm just going to back straight up the center so I don't slide as much. Get it again. And if you see a spot with a lot of sticks, tilt forward a little bit more so it grabs in a little harder. Since you're in float, it should not dig in too bad. A grapple for a skid steer to me is right up there with a hydraulic tilt grading bucket for an excavator. It's just a must-have if you're doing this kind of work. This ground's drying out really nicely. You can see my right hand, I'm kindly, when I come to a hump where it dips off forward, I'll tilt that bucket down. That way, it doesn't come up off the ground so much that it doesn't, continue raking. If you don't, a lot of what you're collecting in front of that grapple will be able to go under those tines. Now see, there's not a good place for me to back up in there, so what I'm going to do is kind of sweep this edge. If you've ever planted a field or whatever, it's almost like doing a turn row. Everybody loves turn rows, Kind of start me a separate little pile over here. And with it being wet, I suggest going downhill. Also, I've got a corner here that I'm backing into every time. See how clean that edge is now? At this point, I'm at full throttle. One more pass around that edge that I kind of compared to a turn row, and then I've got enough room to just back straight up. So what is this? Thursday. Today is Thursday. Now going downhill, I'm able to go and rabbit. Backing uphill, it's actually going faster and low range, or low speed, whatever you want to call it. So now, I'm just going to back straight up until I know that I'm over top of, see where I drag a rock or some stick or something, and cut a little cut into it. I'm going to make straight lines, make it look pretty, so when the property owners come up and look at this, they'll have seen that I've left a tidy work job. Tidy workplace, let's call it that. Sorry, I hum a lot. Just cleaning up very nicely. So like this stick here, I'll tilt way down to get a hold of it, and then I'll just tilt back or tilt up. I've got you guys mounted at my eye level, so you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. You talk about a hillside that's going to dry up now with that sun on it, and then if I want to, and the customer wants me to, I can come back up here with the smooth bucket on this machine and really slick it up, but it's not necessary, especially if they want it to start growing all that brushy stuff kind of naturally for erosion control. They can. Last and final lesson of Grapple. You probably saw me scooping downhill, but while you're learning, tilt that sucker down like that and just barely kiss the ground and go really slowly. I'm gonna even idle down a little bit. Just idle along, rake that ground up, get it real nice and pretty. Gotta get the best scoop you can get. You can see there's a little angle on the tips of those teeth. What I do is I'll put that bucket down about like this, and as I drive into that pile, I'm going to tilt the grapple down, but I'm also going to lift the boom up. So watch this. Now I close the bucket, the clamshells, and as I back up, I'm going to kind of tilt it back up and drop the boom. You can see how much of that pile I got. That is the best way to scoop it up. For you newcomers, if you've got your pump for your diesel tank hardwired into the truck, make sure you crank your truck. That way it gets the power that it needs to push that pump efficiently. I've heard of it to overheat those pumps if you don't start the vehicle. Get fueled up, and then I'm going to bring the excavator over, fuel it up. This is the last day that we are going to be on this job until after the weekend. They're calling for some really heavy rain and severe storms on Saturday. So pay close attention to how I've slicked everything up on the job. That way rainwater doesn't soak in. And Monday and Tuesday, they're calling for really good weather. Hopefully this will dry out really good and we'll really be able to make some headway throwing those culverts in and starting to cut in the road up through the woods on the other side of that little creek. Wedge fries. Ooh, look at that. Barbecue sandwich. If you're ever down around Fairview, North Carolina, stop in at KD's, get you one of these barbecue sandwiches. You'll be glad you did. Some may say, how can you stand to eat meat? Greasy, gas station meat. Simple. Moist wipes. My stomach can get just as tore up as it wants to, and I'll still come out squeaky clean, even in the woods.